I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What is up, everybody? All my PO freaks and those of you that are not PO freaks, we are glad to have you. I'm Wayne, your host, joined as always by my partner in crime, Miss Tiffany. What's up, man?
Not too much. Had kind of a lazy day. I feel better today than I did yesterday, so that's always good.
Saturdays are supposed to be lazy.
They are. We got to give Hunter a bath today, so that's always an adventure.
Does Hunter not like the water?
No, he is not your typical lab.
He's a lab. He should be loving the water.
Yeah, he's full-bred lab. No, he's not about it. No, we have to physically manhandle him until we have a standing shower, so he gets the standing shower with the removable hose, and then he just sits there like, when is this going to end?
I see here that we got Miss Susan Seppinger in the audience, so I want to say a special hello to her. Susan is the lady putting on the Ohio Bigfoot Conference this year, the Greenville, Ohio Spirit of the Forest, where I myself and our guest tonight, Nance, are going to be speakers. So hello, Susan. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
All right. Anything, I don't know if you're ready to talk about it just yet, or if it's going to be too much to talk about. We'll save it. But you've been having a creep fest at your house.
Oh my gosh. Yes. It all started, and I won't go in because it's a whole show. I mean, I could be a guest on our show. It's enough to take.
We need to do that then.
Yeah. Because I have pictures, I have videos. It would take up an hour.
Just give everybody just a brief summary of what's been going on.
Okay, so it started Monday night into Tuesday morning. What we suspect to be a bear got into the trash can, and my husband had quite the mess to clean up in the middle of the road before he went to work. And then I got the remainder that's across the hill. So it was that. And then after our show with Miss Chris Blaylock, a slew of things happened. We had police over here. It was a big whole thing. Okay. It was a big whole thing. So then there's weird noises, which is why the police came over here. I was going through the footage of our Ring camera, which is where, I heard the noises, and I captured some floating lights in our driveway in the middle of the night one night. It's the only time they've ever appeared. They haven't showed up anymore on a camera. There's a portion of camera footage where there's nothing in front of our front door, and then there's this really dark wisp of smoke, and then it's gone. I mean, it's this big whole thing. So we're
Yeah,
like,
your husband there, Mr. Tiffany, said that he would come on with you. So I think we should do that with everything that you've been experiencing. I know that we're booked pretty solid through the month and into September now. We might do a special night.
Yeah.
And have you guys come on maybe when Mr. Tiffany's off next and I don't have Scarlett James. We'll set something up.
Yes, because it truly is. I would have to, with the videos and stuff, I could put them on my YouTube channel so we can, share them here. I can update all the photos and stuff on StreamYard, but it truly is. It's about an hour's worth of stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, we're not going to do that tonight. We have an amazing guest backstage. I can't tell you how excited I am about this one. I've been looking forward to it for a while. You and I got a chance to meet and talk to her for several minutes at the Smoky Mountain Conference. Her booth was actually across from ours.
Yes.
So we saw her all day that day. She is an amazing, amazing lady with just a wildly successful YouTube channel, Buckeye Bigfoot. Obviously, she's in Ohio. You know, Buckeye. That kind of gives it away, but she's got. I forgot. I didn't look to see how many subscribers. It's in the tens of thousands. She'll tell us. I'm thinking like 80,000, maybe.
70. I think it was 77.6.
Yeah, almost 80,000 subscribers. That's good, people. She's doing an amazing job. And you don't get that many subscribers as a fluke. You don't.
I mean, when you're good, you're good.
Exactly. We have 2,500, to kind of give you an idea. And granted, it's a completely different show. She does nothing but storytelling. She tells the stories that are sent into her, and she's just an awesome narrator. She's a great storyteller. She has the perfect voice for this, and excuse me. She's just doing the right way. She's doing a very, very good job, and I'm glad that she agreed to come on. Like I said earlier, she and I are going to be speakers at the conference coming up in Ohio. But before we can get to Nance, we have to pay some bills. So let's do that.
Let's do that.
If you are new to the show tonight, and I know Nance has promoted it 2 or 3 times, so hopefully we'll get some of her loyal fans to come over. But if you are new, thank you so very much for coming over and hanging out with us. Before you leave, please hit that subscribe button. Just go ahead and do it now. Get it out of the way. We are very, very happy to have you. I know since she started, promoting the show, we've gained like 60 or 70 new subs. Yes. So I know they're not all from her, but I know some of them are. So we appreciate that very, very much. If you're new over here, hanging out, watching Nance, please hit that subscribe button before you leave.
And if you would like to come on with Wayne and I, you can reach out to both of us, Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com or Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com. You heard Wayne just a minute ago talk about, us getting tight. We are scheduling into September, but we would love to hear your encounter. Every encounter matters. So reach out to one of the two of us.
ParanormalWorldProductions.com is our website. We ask that you head over there and check it out. You can check out all of the other shows under the studio's umbrella. You got the one that started it all, Sasquatch Odyssey. And then this one was the second one, Paranormal Odyssey. True Crime Odyssey, Basement Hangout, Kentucky X-Files, and the show that I co-host with Mr. Brian, That Bigfoot Podcast. I might have missed one. It wasn't on purpose if I did, but there's several over there for you guys to go and check out. We invite you to head over to paranormalworldproductions.com.
And if you have a question for Miss Nance this evening, please put it in all capital letters. It's easier for Wayne and myself to see it, snatch it, highlight it. We usually run these questions at the end of the show in a rapid fire question answer session, and we try to get in as many as possible. So your best bet is just to put them in all capital letters for us to see.
Very, very good. Also, again, guys, tonight, if you are new to the channel, we offer a membership. It is $1.99 a month. Alex Smith, right on time. Best $1.99 ever. Alex he's been a member for a while. He is a very, very cool guy. Thank you, buddy. But yeah, it's $1.99 a month. You get extra perks. We do members only live shows where we all just hang out as a family and watch spooky shit. That's what we do. We watch scary videos and comment on them. We've had our members come on with us to watch the videos with us. We've had members come on and share their spooky experience. We have a members only Discord that the only way you can become a member is if you are a PO freak. And that's what we call our members, PO freaks. Again, guys, it's just $1.99 a month. You get early access to stuff. You find out what's coming up before anyone else. It's just a cool little community. We all love each other and hang out and just have a good time. So you are welcome. Please just hit that join button. And $2, guys. We talk about it every single episode. You can't get a can of Coke for $2 anymore. For $2, you can become a member of our community and hang out and just be cool.
And we would welcome you with open arms.
Yeah. Also, I know our members like to keep up with how we are doing. For the month, we have already hit our $100 mark, but we've been hitting the $100 mark for like 6 months now. So 200 is our new goal. We are a little ways away from that. So if anybody wants to help out with some super stickers tonight, it would be greatly appreciated to help us hit our monthly goal. I think we're like $80 away from that $200 mark. And you know, YouTube takes their fees out. So
of course,
we would need like probably $110 to hit that mark.
Love YouTube.
But anyway, if you can, you can. If you can't, we love you anyway. All right, as we have been saying for a while now, we have Nance backstage, and I am so very excited to have Nance come on. She's going to come out and talk about how she got the show started, and then I think she's going to share a few of her more memorable not encounters, but stories that have been submitted to her. So if y'all want to hear some Bigfoot stuff, you are at the right place with an awesome lady, and we're going to bring her out now.
Let's do it.
Nance, how you doing, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Doing awesome. Better now that you are here. I have been looking forward to this episode for a long time. I know I say that a lot. I always mean it, but I really mean it. I really mean it with you. Got to hang out with you in the Smoky Mountains. You're a very nice, awesome lady, very welcoming. You have a cat that's going to entertain us throughout the entire show, so that's always a plus. But thank you so very much, ma'am.
This is Well, I'm glad I got to meet you in the Smoky Mountains, and Tiffany as well. I got to meet a lot of wonderful people. That's half the reason I like going to the conferences. Yes, I do have a cat. This is Sweet Pea. This is Sage's mother. Everybody that follows my channel knows who Sage is. So yeah, I'm probably going to be cat bombed all night. I can't help it. This office does not have a door, so I apologize up front.
Well, she's welcome on the show too.
Very good. Yeah, as we were just saying, and Alex says, I love me some Buckeye Bigfoot. So you got a fan. Alex is a police officer up around D.C.
Oh, really?
In D.C., yeah. I don't know, Nance, if you have noticed like any or how much like law enforcement you have gotten, but I have so many cop friends now.
I was actually going to mention that. Sorry, I was going to say, as soon as you mentioned that he was a police officer, my first thought was, it's funny how many LEOs, current, retired, whatever, actually are active in this I don't want to say this field, but you do meet a lot of them, and a lot of them have very compelling stories. And these are not people that you brush off. These are not, your looky-loo type people just looking for attention. They've seen something. So they're often the ones in the position to see something.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always said. I mean, when you're in trouble, if your family is in trouble, something happens, who do you call? You call the police. You trust them, and at the worst points of worst moments of your life, you trust them to come in and help you and to save you. Why would you not believe them when they say they've seen something? I just don't get that.
Yeah. No.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we're getting a little bit off off subject here. I do want to hear how you got your start. How did Buckeye Bigfoot come about, and your initial interest in Bigfoot? What happened there?
Well, they're all very tightly interconnected, as it is for most people. It actually started with a strange little girl who liked to spend her time in the library when she was really young and hung out perusing, always looking for the new paranormal or mysterious cryptid type books. And my dad also had a lot of the same interests, and we used to watch In Search Of as a child an awful lot there when I was a child. And I remember the first time I think I ever was aware of Bigfoot was when I watched that In Search Of about Bigfoot, and it just blew me away. I think I was probably 6 or 7, that this kind of thing was not just out there. This was not the Loch Ness monster, half a world away. This was here in America. And I remember that fired an interest. And, like most kids, it was just an interest. I read everything I could. Then I think I was about 13, and some distant, I won't say distant, they were by marriage, cousins of mine. They had recently relocated from Kentucky up towards Zanesville in the Blue Rock Forest area. And they ended up having an actual Bigfoot on their property that literally ran them off the property. And it was actually the very first story I ever narrated. Now, I knew these people. They were salt of the earth kind of people. They did not make up stories. They did not exaggerate. If anything, these were boring people. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but these weren't the ones who always had some fantastic tale to tell you. They just weren't that way. So that actually really caught my attention, and it kind of refueled my whole interest in it all through my teenage years. And as time went on through them, I got to know some other people who had some experiences. Again, they had their experience, I think it was 83, 84. Back then, there was no BFRO to call. There was no internet. The only thing you could do was what they did elsewhere in Ohio. And you call the press, you call your TV, people. There's no help. There's nothing you can do. I mean, now we're used to looking up all the information. We have the internet, we have BFRO, we have so many different, even if you don't like BFRO, I've said it a million times, don't discount those reports. Those are real, and they were made by real people. So there's still a trove of valuable information there. They didn't have that. They didn't know where to go, who to turn. If they told people back then, they were just called crackpots. So, we've come a long way since then. So how all this came to forming the channel was my interest never went away. It went up, it went down, but it never went away. And over the years, my husband would indulge me, and we would go to different Bigfoot conventions. And I can remember, I think it was 2017, 2018, we went up to Salt Fork one time. I lie. I'm sorry. It was 2019 because someone we knew was unable to go. Now, my husband's family usually has something they did every week, the first weekend in May every year. So we never really could go. And we went up there, and I was surprised at all the people that I would just talk to. And they all said the same thing. Yeah, I'd say, have you seen one? Have you oh, yeah. Well, who did you tell? I'd say about half the time they said nobody. They didn't know. It was so long ago, they didn't know who to tell. Or now they didn't dare tell anyone because they're in the middle of a custody battle. The one gentleman said, I work in a very small machine shop. There's less than 20 people. the family that owns it, they're diehard religious people. They believe the earth is only 3,000 years old, whatever. He said, if I mention this, I'll be gone. So I kept encountering these people who had stories, and they would, they would talk about it. What they didn't want to do was go on record with it. Now, this is 6-7 years ago, 2018. Yeah, about 5 years ago. Things have changed even in 5 years. If you're familiar at all with this whole Bigfoot genre, which we all are, it's a lot more open. There's a lot more people, and there's a lot more acceptance than there was even a few years ago. So I networked with a few of these people, and I asked them, if you don't want to tell your story, is it okay if I tell your story? And this idea was already forming in my mind of this channel. I got 12 stories together. And I said to myself, I'll do one a week. If I don't get any more in 3 months, then this channel's dead. There's no future. It's not the topic that I thought it would be. There's not that many people out there. And I was surprised that suddenly things started taking off. I mean, immediately within 2 to 3 weeks, I think I had 1,000 subscribers in like 4 weeks starting this channel. And that was, I didn't expect that. I even told my husband, I said, it's going to take me a year to even get 1,000 subscribers. I mean, I really didn't know. I had no idea there was that much interest. And when you think about it, before the internet, people who had these kinds of interests, we were all segregated, mostly on our own. Unless you managed to get to a convention, everything you knew and heard was through a book. You might see a documentary on TV, but so it just blew up in a way I hadn't expected. I know I heard you talking about what the subscriber count is. I think it's right at 77,000, I think, last time I looked. So
77,000 in 5 years, Nance.
Yes. I started this, I believe it was April 2019, I think.
I started in 2019 and I've got 2,500.
Well, I mean, look at some of the other big names in this genre. Look at Dixie Cryptid. I think he started the year before me, 2018. I'd have to look. And he's like 200,000. He's like 200,000 subscribers. Yeah. But of course, in my opinion, and I think most people agree, Dixie Cryptid, his stories are so up there that and his narration style is just, you'd think it's what he was trained to do his whole life. So.
Exactly. I through Naoma, I've had Cam on the show to come on for an interview, and he was just an awesome, genuine guy. And he does an amazing job. I think one thing that helps Cam is his the imagery. Like he pays for these AI images, and they are just phenomenal. Some of his images are amazing.
I recently mentioned on my last, just last night, the video last night, that now everything about this channel is on me 100%. Everything from moderating to all the production, all the editing, everything. And it's not that I'd gotten so big, I had a big team. I didn't, but I did have people who helped me out. And the point to that is if there's one thing right now that's probably a weak spot, I would say it's that I'm not doing what Cam is doing. I need some better visuals. I need to do some, and I think that's part of the success for him. He's had good editing. I think Naoma has helped him through the years, doing a lot of that. So yeah, it's a polished thing from beginning to end is what I mean. He's done wonderful. So
yeah, and I think also, when you talk about you and I have been doing about the same amount of time. You're at almost 80,000. I'm at 2,500. We offer, even though it's the same genre, we're talking about the same stuff. We offer two very different styles. Like you tell stories, encounters that people have submitted to you. I talk to researchers and people that have come on and they share their encounter with me firsthand. And it just seems like people want what you are giving them.
Well, a long time ago, someone said to me, I want to start a YouTube channel about Bigfoot. What do you suggest? The only thing I could say is figure out what you're bringing to the table that's different than everybody else, because there's 100 people out there doing narration like me.
Yeah.
You, in my opinion, you're talking to the researchers, you're talking to the people that are boots on the ground. And I wish I could be more boots on the ground. I really, really do. I wish I could be. So we are different, but it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, we're on the same team. We're spreading the same message. We're just doing it in different ways.
I
You
would say
bring on the people who generally only tell their stories through you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. The researchers are doing the science. I guess I'm gathering anecdotal evidence, is what someone said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's true.
if I was more specific, maybe it would be more scientific. If I was really logging every observation, but I'm not. I wish I should. I probably should be.
Yeah. Well, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We asked you tonight if, first off, we wanted to hear how you started the channel, and that's what you've given us. We want to hear some stories, some that stick out to you, some that have been memorable, maybe not your favorite, don't want to put that kind of label on it, but some that have just stuck out to you. Do you have any you want to share?
I have a few. I'm going to give you some overviews, and I pulled some out of a binder pretty quickly. I could not find my absolute favorites. What I will tell you what I normally do with my emails that I get is I usually print them out. Ever since I lost an external hard drive when we moved, and I lost probably my first 2 years worth of all my emails. They were just all gone. So I do hard prints on them, but I just couldn't find them fast enough. But I will tell you some of them that have stuck out. And I just looked. My husband looked it up for me right before we got live. I have 622 videos out. So that's a lot more than 622 stories, because a lot of these videos will have 2, 3, 4 different stories on each one. So in addition to those, I also probably read 20 a month I don't use for various reasons on my show. With that said, I've probably been through 2,000 or 3,000 stories, and I have some that to me are in the top 10 for various reasons. Sometimes it's the detail. Sometimes it's how they were written. And of course, the actual story itself. So I will say probably one of my top favorites is from April of 2022. It was on my channel. And it is called "Once a Sasquatch Gets Your Scent, It Will Follow You to the Ends of the Earth." What this was is during the pandemic, the man, James Fournier was his name. I think he's from Edmonton, Canada, I think is what it was. And he was going back through things, cleaning things out, and he came across a notebook that he wrote and compiled after his great-grandfather died. His great-grandfather died, I believe it was in 1983. And it was his great-grandfather who actually was in the forming days of, I think it was Alberta, Canada, and his numerous encounters with the Sasquatch that he felt was really following him. He wasn't sure at first if they were after his horses. He wasn't sure what they were after, but he was actually up there panning for gold and living the wildlife in like 1910 in Alberta. And he also spoke with some of the natives in the area, the First Nations people. And there was one who told him that if a Sasquatch gets your scent, it will follow you to the ends of the earth. That was what he told him. And it was very chilling and frightening for him. And he didn't quite know what to believe. But he found out quickly he better believe it, because he was having a lot of issues through the years, and he believed it was the same set. The same ones would follow him down from the mountains. It got to where he didn't want to go back in the mountains anymore. So, and there were some incredible encounters through that whole story. He lost a mule to one of the Sasquatches they attacked, and it was incredibly vivid. If this man if that was made up, he needs to be writing for Hollywood, is all I have to say. It was incredible detail. So I believe that was April 2022. Absolutely one of my favorites that I personally have read. I liked his writing style a lot. There are so many other stories that come to mind. I had one right before we started. Now I can't think of it, of course. So, yeah, I mean, I pulled out a couple quick ones I can certainly read for you. I'm not going to say these are in my top 10. Again, it was just, I quickly, right back there.
Yeah.
Is my binder still open? I pulled some out real quick. So forgive the old lady who has to take these off because I don't see real well with them on. This one was from January of 2022. And this guy says, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have a degree in accounting and was a commercial real estate lender for many years. I'm now semi-retired. I wanted to provide you some basic facts around what I saw and heard from the mid 1950s up to 5 years ago. And this is what I liked about this is he had different things through the year. They weren't unbelievable encounters, but he's clearly in the area where he's seeing them. He said, I was a young boy near 11 or 12, and I was running home to eat. The sun was dropping out of sight. I, along with my young buddies, were playing in the woods around the corner from my home in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now, under my neighborhood are, to this day, miles and miles of 100-plus-year-old coal mines and shafts. And that was something he kept mentioning through this. Full speed he was running. He said he didn't want to miss his mom's meal. So in those days, if he missed his meal, his mom said, too bad, you had to wait till morning. He said he was running full speed and he came to a complete stop because he spotted something up ahead. It was very large and it was unusual, and it was off to his right and below the path that he was running on. I stopped and was looking at two animals that looked like a father and son pair watching the rush hour auto traffic, some 50-plus feet or so down below them. I had no clue or understanding of what I was looking at. This was the mid-1950s, and I had never heard of something like Bigfoot. My understanding of so-called monsters in the world were Frankenstein or a werewolf. Then he said that he realized what he was looking at were two animals. They were reddish brown in color and fully covered in hair. He said as I stopped my run up the path. Okay, now you see why I do a lot of editing, because I stumble when I read. Sorry, folks.
No, you're fine.
As I stopped my run up the path, the larger one, either the mom or the dad, the larger one of the two turned and looked directly at me. Then it stepped behind a large tree and began to peek out at me. The animal's large body was not at all hidden by the tree, as its shoulders stuck out on each side of the tree. Now, that's a detail that kind of struck me with this one, because I'll say about half the emails I get, if a Bigfoot goes behind a tree, they say they can't see it anymore. It blends into the tree. They don't see it at all. But the fact that he's pointing out that it was wider than the tree, I don't know. That one kind of stuck out for me.
Yeah.
He said, I stepped back to get a better look, and then it stepped forward and shifted to the other side of the tree, trying to not let me see it. It was having a fun time with me, I felt. It shifted back and forth while I tried to do the same thing to get a better look at it. In just a few minutes, it growled, and I realized I should probably run. And that's what I did for another 150 yards or more across open grass and out of the woods to get home. Now, the whole point is that was a childhood memory, and I seem to get a lot of those, an awful lot of those. It's surprising how many people really come back years later and they're like, I didn't realize what was happening at the time. Yeah. So I don't know. Have you heard that a lot in the things that you've come across?
Yeah. I mean, not only have I heard it a lot, I've experienced it. Years ago, I've shared this story a couple of times before. I mean, I've always been interested in Bigfoot, cryptids, Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra, all of them. They've always fascinated me. But Bigfoot has always had a special place. But, as you become an adult, get married, have kids, go about your life and everything, it kind of takes a back seat. I was hunting. I started hunting in probably my mid-20s, and I had this buddy of mine that I hunted with, and I was supposed to go hunting with him one morning, but I was too tired. I slept in. Well, about 9 o'clock, he calls me and wakes me up and says, "Man, you got to come help me. I just shot the biggest buck I've ever seen in my entire life, and I can't find it. I need you to help me track it." So I get up, throw clothes on, make the 30-minute drive to his house, and we spend hours walking through the woods, following this blood, the blood, drops until they just stop. And there was nothing. This deer, as much blood as we followed, it bled out. I mean, this thing died, but there was nothing there. And at the time, we're scratching our heads like, what in the hell happened? Like, what? This deer should be laying right here. There's nothing there. But, it was gone. But now that I'm doing this, and I've talked to so many people, hunters that have experienced the exact same thing of a Bigfoot taking their kill. And it just makes we were in the North Georgia mountains where Bigfoot is prevalent. And it just makes me wonder, was that a Bigfoot that snatched my buddy's kill?
There's not a lot else that can walk off with a buck like that. I mean, even a bear, they're going to drag it. So
yeah, I've talked to people that have experienced that. I've experienced it myself. Yeah, great story.
It's just putting the pieces of this massive puzzle together. Like when you have things happen when you're younger and when you're an adult, you're like, man, is that what that was? I bet that's what it was that I heard knocking on the tree.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely right. And I think we forget that, today we're all very aware that this creature exists, or people think it exists, or at least what it is, what it should sound like. I remember another story I had. I believe it was put into the first Halloween marathon I did. There was an elderly lady she's elderly now, but she was pardon me, remembering back in I want to say it was the early 1950s. She lived not far outside of Hillsboro here in Ohio. And she remembered her bedroom was downstairs in the house that they lived in. They were in a rural area. And her mother had planted sunflowers all down the one side of the house. And she woke up one night and she saw the shadows outside from their garage light or whatever. I think it was garage light. And in her mind, she thought it must be a gorilla. She had never seen a real gorilla. This was the thing that struck me. In the early 1950s, she, as a young girl, had never seen a live gorilla. They had just gotten a television, and she said, I don't even know if I saw one on television. She'd never been to a zoo because the nearest zoo was, probably Columbus or Cincinnati. She'd never been. So in her mind, but she'd seen pictures in a book. She thought this must be a gorilla because it was taking the sunflowers and it was eating the seeds out of the sunflowers all up and down the house. And apparently her parents knew there was something going on because as soon as she mentioned it the next morning, her parents absolutely flipped out and they moved her bedroom to one upstairs and her parents took her room downstairs, although it was smaller. So I think the childhood thing, children are innocent, and especially years ago. Now, I think every kid's seen Harry and the Hendersons, they've seen a lot more, and I think they're a lot more aware, for lack of a better word. I think they're definitely a lot more aware.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You got another story you want to share?
Another quick one I just pulled out. Again, these are not my favorites. I couldn't find, and a lot of my favorites, by the way, are like 40, 50 minutes long, and I didn't want to take up the whole thing. This one was from 1966. He says, I just graduated high school and I was enlisted and in basic training the day after my graduation. I completed my training and I was home on leave that October before my first assignment. I used my dad's pickup and I called a girl I knew and we went parking in a section of woods. I didn't know what this section was named and I can't remember if the girl had told me about it beforehand. Yeah, I remember it was a cool night, which was normal in Missouri in October. I don't remember how long we had been there, but I don't think it was very long. But we had the windows fogged up from the cool air just talking. We heard a noise in the distance, so we started listening. The noise drew closer. Suddenly, there was a huge figure standing next to the truck. He was so large, and I could only see him from the chest down. It was a huge silhouette. I was scared. It let out this very loud sound, and it sounded like a scream, but more like a holler of anger. The girl I was with promptly almost passed out and started screaming it was time to leave. I started my truck and backed out of there as quickly as I could. I took her home. Then I called up some friends of mine. We got together and we got our guns, and the 6 of us drove back out to the woods. We parked in the same spot that I had parked in earlier. We got out of the vehicle and we could hear the creature in the woods making a lot of noise. But no matter what, it stayed out of sight. After a while, we decided he was not going to show himself. So we got back in the car getting ready to leave. My car wouldn't start. Turned out I had a punctured hole in the gas tank. My friend was a sheet metal specialist and was able to repair the gas tank, but we had to walk out of the woods to find some gas. The entire time, this thing was following us close by. We got some gas from a nearby farmer, put it in the car, and started to drive out of the woods. When we got out of the woods and back onto paved road, my friend spun the car around, turned his headlights onto the edge of the woods that we had just left. There in the light stood the creature, and we all saw him. He was covered in shaggy fur and standing on 2 legs. He was a dark brown color, and he was the size of an NFL linebacker. Seeing us with the lights on him, he yelled and then he dashed back into the woods. But all of us saw him clearly. To this day, we have never forgotten it. We don't talk about it between us a lot. One of the guys I was with that night is now dead. His brother that was there, I've lost contact with him. And over the years, our friendship ended with the other 2. But the driver and I have stayed friends all this time, and I recently asked him if he remembered that night that we all saw a Bigfoot in the woods. He absolutely does. I thought the creature was hostile at the time, but now looking back, I wonder, he never actually tried to attack us. I believe he just wanted us to get away from his home. Maybe he had a family living nearby, and he was just trying to protect them. That was signed by a man named Gary Williams. So I
mean, come on, Gary. The windows weren't fogged because you were talking.
Well, it was a more innocent time. It was 1966, but knowing he was out, and we're in the era of Vietnam. Yeah, you know.
They didn't do stuff like that back then.
Oh, of course not. No, not back then. But again, his email speaks to something I hear and see a lot, which is the immediate reaction is this creature is hostile. This creature is a danger, and I'm going to go back with a gun if I don't have one already. But every time somebody actually encounters one with a gun, 90% of the credible things I've read, they all say they just can't shoot. They just can't do it. So I think it speaks to first the reaction that they think it's dangerous, but even still, I think it's so human-like when they get up close that they never pull the trigger. Because you have to wonder, a lot of these sightings are by hunters. They're by people who understand what's out there. They're not easily rattled. They don't mistake one animal for another. Their whole, I don't want to say hobby, but they spend a lot of their lives studying animals out there in the wild and the sounds, and they're not easily fooled or mistaken. But they still are the ones out there with guns, and yet none has ever been shot. Not saying I want one shot. I'm just talking about probabilities, statistics, and numbers when you have that many people out there with guns. So it makes you wonder. So
absolutely. Yeah, well, you opened the door a little bit there, Nance, so I'm going to ask you to come on through.
Absolutely.
And what do you think it's going to take a body? Or are you against someone killing one, shooting one, if it means putting to bed once and for all that this is a real creature?
I think there's a couple points there. First, yes, it is going to take a body for science to actually acknowledge one. The flip side to that is I don't think the best way to do that is to go actively hunt one, which is why Washington State says it's illegal to hunt a Bigfoot or to kill one. It's not even really to protect a Bigfoot, it's to protect other people out in the woods that could be mistaken for a Bigfoot. That's my understanding of it. So my point is, in a defensive situation, if one is shot because there's no other choice, that's the body for science. Do I really want to think about people posseing up, getting to a posse together and going and hunting one down? No, we don't need to kill something to satisfy our curiosity, and not just curiosity, but to satisfy science's qualifications. So
Now, do you think that if one is found, that that's what is inevitably going to happen? People are going to join together and comb the woods for these things just to shoot one, just to say they did.
I think that has already happened in the past, and I'll go back to what I just said. I think that's why Washington State, it is against the law to shoot a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch. And it was mostly because suddenly you had a lot of people traipsing around in the woods up there in the early 70s, I think is what it was. And it was just a matter of time until someone was accidentally shot. You know, somebody's pulling a stupid prank, thinking they're funny, dressing up, and they take a headshot because somebody's thinking they're getting that Sasquatch for science. So, you know, it might be that they really believe they're out there and that's why they made it against the law. But my understanding from people I've heard that live out there, it was more trying to really protect the populace because, you know, people get gun happy. And more than gun happy, I'm not against guns. I am a gun owner. I have hunters in my family. That's not it. But when people are scared, if they see something late at night prowling around, they're gonna pull that trigger, and it might be a Bigfoot, and it might not be.
I think you hit it right on the nose, Nance. The reason that, well, Washington is one. It seemed like there's maybe some other states that have a law. It's against the law to shoot a Bigfoot. I don't think, because a lot of people will point to that and say, well, this is the government admitting that Bigfoot's real. If there's a law, I don't think that's the case at all. I think it is to protect the idiot that walks out there in a gorilla suit trying to pull a prank.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You got to protect the idiots because they're obviously not able to protect themselves, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you hear one thing at night in a campground and somebody pulls a trigger. It could be just somebody walking back from the toilets late at night. There's so many variables and so many bad things that can happen when you start putting humans in great numbers together with guns. Most gun owners are incredibly responsible. I know that because I know a million people who own, not a million, but I know a lot of people who own guns, and they're incredibly responsible. There's always that one, you know, and it doesn't even have to be a gun. It could be, I'm going to hit somebody with a baseball bat because I think it's a monster crawling into my sister's tent. I don't know.
Yeah. Great point. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Nance, what is a Bigfoot? What are they?
Well, since we don't have a body for exact classification, my belief, I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I believe it is something that has managed to survive throughout the millennia that's come down to this time. You know, whether that's a Gigantopithecus, whether it's a Neanderthal type that has somehow mutated, I'm not sure. I don't think it's a new species. I do think it's a type of a hominid of some sort. I'm not saying it's related to us, but it's definitely somewhere in our sphere of the animal kingdom, much more so than, say, you know, it doesn't, I think it's closer to us than, I will say, a lowland gorilla. That's just me.
I agree with you 1,000%. So it's not Nephilim, or it's not a UFO, in your opinion.
My belief is that it is absolutely flesh and blood. I know there are many people, and even some who are credible, who believe that they have the ability for mind speak and other things. I believe Les Stroud is one. I believe he had his first initial things, and I think another time I saw him on an interview, I think something on YouTube, where he mentioned he thought that there was some mind speak going on. I may be misquoting him. If so, please forgive me.
No. He actually
I thought
he actually said his time in Tennessee in the
Yeah.
Smoky Mountains that he was spoken to by a Bigfoot that told him, if you want to meet us, come back here at so and so midnight, and he wasn't brave enough to do it. So
he said no.
he absolutely believes in the telepathy thing.
I thought that was who said it. I'm always a little hesitant, just for the record, to quote people or what I read in their book. I think I did that once with Dr. Meldrum's book. And it's because I read so much and I watch so much on YouTube, different interviews, or like Les Stroud's, I've watched so much on him, and David Ply, so many people. Sometimes it kind of gets muddled up who said what or what exactly was said. So
It's hard to keep track of all the interviews and the people and what they said.
You'd think it would be easy, but I guess I'm just, but no, for me, I'm not going to, again, this is where I come down to, who am I to say what is and isn't a certain, reality. For me, I do believe they're flesh and blood. I'm not so sure that there are portals that exist just for them, but at the same time, I'm not so crazy as to think that A, we humans know everything that's out there, or B, me in particular knows everything that's out there. I allow that a lot of those things may exist. It's not my personal belief, but I'm not going to disallow them for someone else. I hope that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
I'm not as big on the mind speak, but am I going to look at Les Stroud and say, I think you're full of BS? No, I'm not. That's a man with some serious street cred. It goes back to what I was saying, like with hunters. You spend that kind of time out there in the outdoors, all kinds of weather, all kinds of seasons, day, night, weeks at a time. Mm-hmm. You're not easily rattled. Somebody like Les Stroud is not going to be mistaken. He's not going to be mistaken about what he has seen and heard. I don't believe that for a second. He literally put his entire career and reputation at stake.
Right.
Why would he if he wasn't 1,000% sure? So I do believe that. So just because it's not my belief doesn't mean that I don't believe Les Stroud. I do. I believe him. It's just not my belief.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we lie. With the people who come on our shows, whether it be Bigfoot, Dogman, paranormal, UFOs, it is not our place to say you're full of it. No, we believe that they believe that they had this encounter with whatever it is, and they come on and tell it, and then it's up to everybody else whether they believe it or not.
Well, it's like what I said when we were sitting backstage earlier. Once you cross the Rubicon and you say you believe in Bigfoot, I'm sorry, you crossed the Rubicon. Who are you to say someone else, whatever they believe, is not okay? You've crossed that Rubicon that 90% of the populace already thinks you've gone into crazy land.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's crazy land. So I don't know if I'm making that distinction. Once you cross into this field, this genre, it's kind of hard to point fingers at someone else and say, "Oh, you're full of it."
Exactly. Yeah, you're saying that perfectly. And I've said it. I've been saying it for years, Nance. When I first started in 2019, getting like serious into this, you could not convince me that Bigfoot was anything other than a flesh and blood creature that we just haven't caught up with yet. That we just, another one of God's creations that we just don't know about. But the more that I talk to people, and I'm sure you can echo this with the people that send in encounters to you, the more that you hear, you just think that there's got to be something else to it. I mean, that's how I feel.
I look at different people that are willing to stake everything for what they have experienced or seen or heard. You don't do that lightly. I cannot be convinced. I can be convinced of a lot of things, but one thing I'm not going to be convinced is that there's some mass delusion out here and people are just regurgitating things. I will say I do get a lot of emails that I know. Well, I won't say I know. I am of a mind that they are not truthful. We've touched on that before as well when you and I have talked, and I don't like to make that kind of call. But I think, and I've often talked about this one, and I have no compunction about doing this because I've spoken with the person that sent this in many times, and in the end, they have finally admitted, yeah, they made it up. And what it was is the story is that they had been out driving and they had a flat tire on their truck and they pulled over to the side of the road and it was dark. They were on the edge of a forested, bunch of trees, and Bigfoot came out of the woods. And he was scared at first, but Bigfoot, held up the back of his truck, helped him change a tire. Then he said Bigfoot hopped in the back of the truck, and they went through Wendy's drive-through. And
yeah, they had a beer.
Yeah, well, no, he didn't have a beer. He got him a cheeseburger and fries or something through the Wendy's
biggie bag.
and the Wendy's workers saw him, is what this person said. I said, "Oh, now come on, look." I'm willing to believe people, but you are not going to get me to believe that BS unless you got all those Wendy's people lined up and you show me their drive-through cam.
Yeah.
I really just, I'm like, that's ridiculous. And
so that was honestly an encounter that was submitted to you, Nance.
Yes, and I just simply didn't respond, and he kept sending it in and kept sending it in, and this was like my first year, and what it was is he thought he was going to get a laugh on me, and I'm sure I have narrated something that someone presented to me as truth, and I believed them erroneously, but that one was so outlandish that I didn't reply, and he kept pestering me by email. And I finally replied. I said, "Look, I don't believe a word of what you said. This is not truthful." And since I don't investigate every single email, I have no authority to say these are true. I can only tell you they have been presented to me as truth. Okay. And then there are some like this one I'm telling you, I literally no way. So he became very belligerent at first. And I said, I want further detail then. And if you really did go through Wendy's, I want you to contact that Wendy's, find those workers. I want you to have them email me. And at the very least, they would certainly have the drive-through video. And, finally he hem-hawed around, and finally he said, okay, well, I was just trying to have a little bit of fun. I really wanted to see if he would do it. I said, well, now you see, I didn't. So, and a lot of people take it as a challenge. What can they slip by? I mean, you get some really, and that damages the field, that damages the people who are really trying to research, the people who really have had experiences and they're really, really trying. It just damages everything. So it's really hard. On the one hand, like I said, I don't like saying I don't believe people, but there are times I do have to separate the wheat from the chaff. And so, yeah. It's kind of
Dude's a piece of shit.
I'm sorry?
A dude's a piece of shit.
Well,
in my opinion.
I think he was kind of youngish, and I think he just thought it would be a laugh, and I think he actually got mad because he couldn't get me to believe it.
Yeah.
I think he thought it would be a really easy thing to do. And like I said, I am sure someone has done that to me. And the shame is on them. It's not on me. I've done what I've done with honest intention. So.
Well, Nance, do you have another story that you could share, or are you?
If I can get my cat off of it. Come here. She is not wanting to give that up. Come on.
No.
Yeah, she literally was laying on it. Yeah, I think I had one more.
Okay.
Okay. This guy is, his name is Zach. This happened in Alaska. This was at his aunt's house. Summer 2021, he had the opportunity to take a trip to Alaska, thanks to his aunt on his dad's side of the family. And he was staying at his aunt's house with her and his uncle. There were all these plans for doing all kinds of fishing. They were going to do some whale watching. He goes on through quite a bit. Then he says a little bit more backstory about me. My grandparents had lived in Alaska for many years, and I was always fascinated by the stories my grandfather told me of how he'd go salmon and halibut fishing. He was amused by these tales of the amount of bald eagles. And he goes on. He was just really enamored to get up to Alaska. So he says, but now back to the encounter. I arrived in Alaska, and I got settled into my aunt's place quite nicely. As I said, it was the summer. And so the snows were gone now for the part of Alaska where my aunt's house was, which meant I'd be able to get around pretty easily in my wheelchair. He said he was born with spina bifida. Again, this was somebody who couldn't exactly go out in the woods, but yet they still managed to have an encounter. Go figure. I mean, it just, you can never tell when it's going to happen. On the morning my uncle and I were to do a spot of charter fishing, I went out onto my aunt and uncle's back porch, and I sat there admiring the view and drinking a glass of orange juice. I felt blessed at finally being in the state my grandparents had talked so much about. I got up before my aunt and uncle that morning, but I was there, sitting on this back porch for a good half hour before I caught movement out of the corner of my left eye. I'm not good with judging distances, but my aunt's backyard was a grassy field, and beyond that, nothing but forest. If I were to judge the distance from my aunt's backyard to the tree line, perhaps I'd put it at 100 yards or so. Anyway, as I focused on the movement coming into my line of vision, my heart caught in my throat. Again, I'm not good with judging distances or even heights of things, but I can tell you that the being I saw walking along the edge of the tree line was massive, huge, to put it lightly. Aside from just the height, the thing that stood out to me the most about this being was beneath the short chestnut-colored hair. I could see the rippling muscles of this being, almost notably on his thighs and legs, though he had muscles everywhere on his arms and torso as well. I was positive that the being was a him, based on the height and muscular structure alone. The way he was walking, putting one foot in front of the other while looking slightly down, that gave me the slight impression that he was tired or he was just in a hurry to go, or just not in a hurry to go anywhere. He must have felt my eyes on him because as soon as he was in my center line of vision, he paused for a moment and he turned his head and he looked right at me. I'm sure of it even from the distance. The head I saw was more rounded than the cone shape that most people describe, but the main focus I had were his facial features. And now here, this is where when I get emails, I get on the fence about things. I don't think you could see facial features at 100 yards. So I'm going to take him at his word that he said he was not good at judging distances. Because I've actually tested this with my husband. We live on 2 1/3 acres. If I stand at one end of my property, I can't see things even 1 acre away with detail. And I'm not sure what the footage on that was. I think it was like, I don't remember. We did it like 3 years ago. So anyway, sorry to get off on a track, but these are the things I think about when I get these emails. Okay, he said, to me, the facial features look like a cross between an ape and a long forgotten Neanderthal. And indeed, I sensed a very tired look on this being's face. However, after glancing at me, the being seemed to have a dismissive air about him. And so with that, he turned his head back around and slowly melted into the tree line. What was that? My aunt asked as she opened the back door behind me. I hadn't realized I had been holding my breath until her presence forced me to exhale and to blink rapidly as I looked over at her. I'm not sure, I said. I was exasperated while my aunt continued to stare out at the tree line. Well, long story short, we never saw that being again. And I did get to go do my fishing and bald eagle watching before returning home. So anyway, he goes on and he talks about this encounter lasted probably less than 30 seconds, with the being coming into his range of view, stopping to glance back, and then moving on into the tree line. Pardon me. He said, so it really didn't leave him much room for interaction, but he remembered very vividly every second that he saw. The only thing that I would question on this, like I said, was the 100-yard range. I don't believe anybody could see that kind of detail 100 yards. He was probably a lot closer than he thought. I think a friend I knew who used to do insurance adjustment, he said that when he would talk to eyewitnesses for like traffic accidents or whatever, when he would ask them about distances, they would always say, oh, it was like 100 feet. And it would be like 30 feet. He said, people are really bad at judging distances. They over or under judge. Again, I have also heard that from a police officer who, when they take eyewitness statements, they'll go to the scene, and when they measure, it's like half the distance or it's twice the distance. So just that's the only thing with that one. So
you're not going to be able to tell facial expressions from 100 yards. I'm sorry.
No. I think that's the biggest thing with a lot of the stories I get is I don't think the distances could possibly, and I'm no investigator, but I just, like I said, I tested it even on our property here, how far I could see things. I'm like, man, at 30 feet, I couldn't tell you someone's eye color.
Yeah, no, you can't. It's impossible.
You can't. You really can't. 30 feet, of course, my vision is not the greatest. At 30 feet, I have trouble with basic facial expression and features.
30 feet, I can't tell you what color your hair is.
I might be able to do that. I can give you a broad range. It was light, it was dark. Maybe some people have exceptional observatory powers. I'm sure some people do. Some people are trained for that. But the average person, they're not.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So I'm sorry I didn't get the best stories ready for tonight. I was a little behind the ball on that one. So
no, that's fine. That's fine. The ones you shared were great. We're going to move into some questions.
Okay.
Q&A rapid fire. Not really rapid fire. Take as much time as you need.
Let's do it.
Them, but let's get to some of these questions.
Let's do it.
First one, we got Land Lover. Question for later, Nance. Have you had a story where a person has made friends with a regular visiting Sasquatch? Thanks from Tennessee Mountain.
Actually, I've had quite a few of them. Dee from Missouri was one of them that I had early on, that she had a lot of them on her property from her reports. There's another person that lives out in California who says they have them on their property all the time. I've had a lot of them. How true they are, again, I'm not an investigator. I think most people are lucky to ever see one in a lifetime. If you really had one that returned to your property all the time, I'm always wondering, why do you not have a photograph or a video? Why have you not contacted investigators? And again, I'm not trying to denigrate these people at all. I'm really genuinely wondering, why don't we do this? If it's so predictable that they're out there every weekend looking for food or something, what? Again, we don't have to have the body, maybe. Get some better Patterson-Gimlin type footage that's harder to deny,
Exactly.
Those, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, moving on. Ristol. Nance, most of the stories I've heard about the grass man, they seem more on the aggressive side. Is this true? And if so, any thoughts on why that may be?
I have heard the same. I have heard a lot of discussion about the types of different Bigfoot, that the black ones are supposed to be a lot more aggressive. Look out for any that have red eyes and things of that nature. I think there's a lot of anecdotal evidence in the form of encounters submitted to me and submitted to other people that if you line them up, the data you could extract from them would suggest these things are true. The bottom line is we don't know. we really don't know what is actual fact. I have heard that. I have heard that people say that the Ohio grassman is very aggressive. If I had to take a stab at why that might be, I would say because there's a bigger competition for resources. The southeastern part of Ohio, you're in the Appalachians. You're butting up to the Appalachian Mountains that run all the way through up to New York and stuff. So there's certainly the terrain for the grassman to survive. But is it the kind of resources you would find, say, in the Missouri Ozarks or the Pacific Northwest? No. So if I had to guess, it's going to be about competition for resources. They're probably used to, I don't want to say fighting more for their territory, but protecting their territory, and they're young because Ohio is getting very densely populated. But again, if you look at the weird diagonal between Cincinnati to Columbus to Cleveland, most of what's south and east of there is not heavily populated. So I don't know, just a thought. It's a good question.
Yeah. All right. This one is more of a comment from Susan Seppinger, our buddy who is putting on the conference.
Hi, Susan.
Nance, you have so many reputable people that write into you. I know some that have stuck with me. They are fighting cancer or are just getting up in age and want to share their experiences with you. That's more of a comment.
Well, but that is true, and especially when people are looking at, they no longer have the endless road in front of them for whatever reason, whether it's cancer, old age, whatever that might be. It also goes back to people talking about their childhood memories. People start wanting to clean off their plate, and now they can kind of clean their plate when it comes to this topic. Whereas, like we said, even 10, 20 years ago, you didn't dare, and there was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to go. And I think people really forget that people say, why didn't you tell someone, 30 years ago? Who was there to tell? There was nobody. Nobody.
I mean, you could have told your neighbor, but that don't count.
No, if you wanted to find other people that had experiences, you had to go look up like authors. You had to find books in a library. I know, because I was one of those kids always looking in books and libraries. Where did this happen? There was no way to connect. There was no way. Now I don't want to say it's easy, but they do find it a lot easier to talk about things, not just because it's end of life necessarily, but they're free to do it now. There are places that aren't as judgmental. They're not as likely to suffer the same kind of repercussions they would have decades ago. So I do think it's common, Susan. It is. I do have a lot that have wanted to clean their plate, so to speak, because now they can.
Yeah. All right, moving on to good buddy Alex. Nance, have you ever been recognized at the gas station or the stores as the voice of behind Buckeye Bigfoot?
Not. I did have something that happened at Kroger, but that's not the fun. The best story of all time is when I was selling my house in Liberty Township, getting ready to buy this one out here in Okeana. The house inspector came, and the lady that was buying the house or thinking of buying the house worked with my husband. So we were chatty. We were there together. The house is almost empty. And we're just talking up a storm. And she starts talking to me about my channel because she knew about it. Out of nowhere, the inspector, you hear boom, 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 flying up the basement steps. He'd been in the basement. He'd been right under us, and he could hear it. He came flying around the corner, and he said, I knew that voice. You're Nance Warren. So that was the funniest time I'd ever been recognized. I did have a time in Kroger. I was actually on my cell phone, and I was talking to my husband, figuring out something for dinner. I don't know what we're saying. I know Warren hung up the phone, and this woman literally blocked my cart with hers, and she said, I know that voice. I said, you do? And she said, yeah. So those are the only two times. But yes, it's a strange thing, because I don't think of myself as somebody who would be recognized.
It's fun though, isn't it?
I don't know that it's fun. It's a little, I don't know. It's a little disjointed when it happens. It's like,
Yeah, it hasn't happened to me yet, like out in public, but at conferences and at shows, people, it always just amazes me how people will come up and, hey, you're Wayne, aren't you? And want to take a picture with me or want me to sign something. And Tiffany, you experienced it
Yeah.
for the first time.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It is cool. It's a good feeling. Makes you feel good.
this is how, I guess, naive I was. The first convention I did was 2021 Gatlinburg. And I was sharing a booth with Cam from Dixie Cryptid. And Cam had a line out the door, and people wanting him to sign this and that. And I turned around and all of a sudden this gentleman looks at me. He said, I just bought your t-shirt. Would you sign it? And I'm like, what? And at the time, I think I didn't even have maybe 20,000. I don't even think I had that. I might have had 10 or 15,000, which was still a lot, but I didn't expect it. And I was totally unprepared. I didn't have a Sharpie. I didn't have a pen to sign. I didn't have anything. And I was just, I was completely taken aback. I was not expecting it. I still don't expect it.
It's nice though when you get recognized for your hard work. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I don't know. I kind of like being like the Bigfoot of the Bigfoot world. I like slinking around and nobody knows who I am. I think I saw her. Yeah, no, you didn't. So
you're like, no, you didn't. You didn't see me.
That's right.
Naoma has a really, really good point here. I've never thought of it. I think the hunters who have disappeared in the woods are the ones who pulled the trigger.
Naoma, are you meaning that the Bigfoot did them in because it didn't get killed, or the government or someone made them disappear because they don't want to prove that? So
that's a good point. The way I took it was they pulled the trigger and Bigfoot got them.
See, that was my first thought, but then everyone always, because if you've done that, it's not like a deer. You're not going to pull that out of the woods by yourself. Right. You have to call somebody. So
yeah, maybe she can respond to that.
That's a thought.
All right, we got Jenna in the stars. Have there been Sasquatch sightings in Wisconsin? Well,
yes,
there have.
There absolutely have. Absolutely. I have a lot of people always ask, have there been anything in my area? I always point them to the BFRO just to look at the database. Because again, I don't care if you don't like the BFRO. That's fine.
That database is amazing. I tell people the same thing.
Yeah. There are real people that made those reports because they didn't know who else to call.
Mm-hmm.
So if nothing else, it's a good barometer of what's going on in your area. Again, I just talked to my husband a couple weeks ago. I said, maybe I should hire a personal assistant to literally go back through every single story I've received and make a huge database listing all the places that sightings have occurred, the specifics of each, because I think it'd probably be kind of valuable. The only difference is since I haven't investigated them, I cannot swear to every single detail. That's why I really haven't pursued that. Because I have people say, did you have anything happen in, I'm just going to make something up, Rock Castle, Indiana? I don't know. Do I? I don't know. Like I said, I lost a lot on an external hard drive. So I do know, the point is, I do know there's a lot in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, I think northern Wisconsin in particular, is pretty rural.
It's cold as hell up there, right?
Yeah. And like Minnesota, people overlook the Minnesota. Northern Minnesota is very beautiful, very wild, and very, very rural. Oh, I see Neil is saying they kill one Bigfoot and the other Bigfoot will attack them. That's a good point. That may be why those hunters disappear. You should tell David Politis that. I mean, he's probably already thought of it, but I mean, he probably has. He's a very thorough man from what I understand. So
yeah, Politis, we're going to stay away from that.
I know.
That's a different topic for
I know. I do know. We'll talk backstage.
Yeah. All right, Miss Naoma Finn, do you subscribe to the theory of different species? a Bigfoot, I'm assuming.
So, like the Yeti is different from the Ohio Grassman, which is different from the Pacific Northwest Sasquatch. Yeah. I haven't given the greatest amount of thought, but it would stand to reason that there are some differences. I mean, even if you look in, I don't know, ape, monkey, I mean, they have numerous different variations within, I guess it'd be the species.
Yeah.
I'm not as versed on that as I should be, but I believe there probably are.
Well, and they have to acclimate to their surroundings.
I was just going to say that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that stands to reason.
Yeah, I can definitely buy into that. All right. Yeah, I think that's all we've got for tonight. Nance, tell, as if people didn't know, tell everybody where they can find you, if you've got anything coming up that you want to promote, just anything that means anything to you. This is your time.
Oh, wow. Well, let me see. Don't tell me that. I'll be here all night because I can talk. Well, of course, first of all, we know that Greenville, I think Susan, correct me, October 14th and 15th will be in Greenville, Ohio, first year for the Spirit of the Bigfoot Festival. I'm looking forward to that. I'll be there. Wayne will be there. Neoma Finn will be there. There's a couple more speakers I can't think of right off the top of my head. Looks like it's going to be a good time. Let me think. Next month, September, I just put it up last night, 11th and 12th. It's like 20 minutes from my house. It's North Bend, Ohio. It's the Buckeye Trading Post Bigfoot Bash. I'm not affiliated with them, but they're called the Buckeye Trading Post. They sell all kinds of stuff. They're really neat, and they had a really nice setup last year. They do a lot of stuff there. I'll be there. Otherwise, thank you, Susan. October 11th and 12th. So I probably got them superimposed. October 11th and 12th in Greenville, and probably like September 14th and 15th here in North Bend. Otherwise, no, just come look for me on YouTube. Look up Buckeye Bigfoot. If you have an encounter, please send it in. A lot of people, I think, use it as a time to get, like I said, get it off their chest, clean their plate. But for a lot of people, it's, I think, very cathartic to tell somebody things maybe they've been holding on to for a really long time. So, yeah, and you can email me at contact@buckeyebigfoot.com. So.
All right. We will put all of those links in the show notes. As everyone here knows, I take the audio from these live shows and then I upload them to podcast where my audience is much, much bigger. We have a bigger following on podcast than we do on YouTube. So this will go out in a week or so, probably.
So how big is your podcast? I didn't realize it was something separate.
Oh yeah. We do this, and then the audio from this we will take and upload to just podcast, which you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere that you find podcasts. And our audience is much, much bigger over there. That's that Bigfoot podcast that I host. We don't do anything really on YouTube. It's all on podcast. Johnny Tucker, thank you, buddy, for that $20 that you just did. Thank you. Love you so very much. But yeah, Nance, you're not on. You don't do podcasts?
No, I really, really need to. Pardon me. It is time for me to start branching out. I used to work for a Fortune 100 company here in Cincinnati as a business analyst. Those contracts have ended, so I do have a little more time coming up. It's almost done. And I've been thinking about another channel. I've been thinking about an actual podcast. So, material is always an issue. So,
well, I think it would go really, really well. I think you can just slay with the podcast just like you do your channel.
I may think about that, Tiffany. I know I need to talk to Neoma about some stuff that
if you have any questions about like branching out and doing podcasts, don't hesitate to reach out. because that's where our biggest audience is. I mean, that's how I make my living, is on the podcast side. I certainly don't make enough on YouTube.
Really.
And Tiffany can attest to that.
We try. We try so hard.
Well, YouTube, they've done well for me. And, they're a very big mouth at the table that needs to be fed. I'll put it that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, let's get into podcast.
I was going to ask for that, Neoma. I was.
I will definitely give her your phone number. All right. Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you so very much, ma'am, for taking the time to hang out. We will stay in contact, I'm sure. I will see you in mid-October.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
thank you.
of course.
It's good to see you and Tiffany again.
Thank you. Thank you for clearing time to come on here and hang out with us. It was fun.
Yes, it was.
Anytime. Let me know. I'll be happy to do it again someday if you want.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. You enjoy the rest of your evening, okay?
I will. Thank you. You too. Good night.
Good night. So fun.
She's a really cool lady.
Yeah. Well, we know it'd be a good show.
Oh yeah, I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I've been listening to her channel for a long time. And it's that voice. And some people have it. Some people don't. I don't.
Yes,
I cannot narrate. Brian is a good narrator. You're a good narrator. Nance is phenomenal. Cam is phenomenal. That's just a gift that I don't have. So
that's why I think it would behoove her to do a podcast, because people will throw their AirPods in and listen to it while they work out, while they're at work, while they're cooking dinner.
And she has so much backlog now
that
she could start a podcast and just put all kinds of content out.
Oh yeah,
for people to catch up on. I think she could do really well.
100%. 100%.
All right, everybody out there, thank you so very much for hanging out with us. Johnny, thank you. Alex, thank you for the super stickers, guys. You are amazing. We love you. Thank you for everything that you do. Everyone else, thank you for being respectful to our guests. We never have an issue with that. You guys are always awesome. Yeah, that's all I've got. You got anything else, ma'am?
No, I was looking to see who we have on next. Ernie Pack.
Ernie. Yeah, he's up in Kentucky.
With his haunted house, I think is what it is.
Yeah, he owns the most haunted house in Kentucky.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be so exciting.
He also does some Bigfoot stuff, like a fort out in Knoxville, in Kentucky. I think it's Knox, something Knox. I don't know. But yeah, that should be a really, really good show. Hope you guys can tune in. That's Tuesday, right?
Tuesday, yes. Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
All right. All right, everybody. We are going to get out of here. Thank you so very much for hanging out with us tonight. All of the support, everyone that is new, we thank you. We love you. Thank you so very much, Alex. Another great show. Thank you, buddy. All right. Until we get to talk to y'all again, y'all take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Bye.